In early 18th century Connecticut, a travelling salesman disappeared near the farm of a man named Micah Rood. When searchers found him, he was buried beneath one of Rood's apple trees. His skull had been shattered, and the money he'd been carrying was gone. Micah denied killing him, but when spring returned, the tree above the grave changed. Its white blossoms turned red, and by autumn, the apples it bore were marked near the core with a crimson stain, like blood caught inside the fruit. After that, people said Micah was never the same again. He stopped tending his land. He claimed something haunted the orchard, and while the rest of his farm fell into ruin, that one tree continued to thrive. This is the legend of Micah Rood, the murdered peddler, and the apples that's said to have grown with bloody hearts.
Roughly 20 veterans die by suicide every single day. Canines for Warriors has been the nation's leading nonprofit organization, providing service dogs for veterans battling PTSD and other invisible wounds of war.
Thanks to my service dog, Lady Cameo, I got my life back.
I'm able to get out of bed in the morning.
Be excited, happy about today.
To learn more, visit caninesforwarriors.org. That's caninesforwarriors.org.
Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move, and knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with a personal price plan. Head to statefarm.com to get a quote. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
With Share My Trip from Uber, you can send your live trip location to the ones who matter most. Like Dan and Hannah, who always wait up to make sure their daughter gets back to her college dorm room. Or Tiffany, who's running late as usual, and her friends are tracking her trip to make sure she's actually on her way.
Look, she's right there. She's 3 minutes away.
Or Sam, who never goes anywhere without her roommate knowing exactly where she is. Some journeys are meant to be shared. Share your ride in real time with Share My Trip on Uber. One more way Uber is putting safety at every turn. Learn more on the Uber app.
Bring on the off-road. Bring home a new Honda. With a great deal on your favorite Honda vehicles. Conquer trails and back roads in cars built for exploring. With the rugged Honda Pilot, Ridgeline, CR-V, and Passport, the road might stop, but you're not done. All from the 2025 Kelley Blue Book Best Value brand.
Based on 2025 Consumer Choice Awards from Kelley Blue Book. Visit kbb.com for more information.
With Share My Trip from Uber, you can send your live trip location to the ones who matter most. Like Dan and Hannah, who always wait up to make sure their daughter gets back to her college dorm room. Or Tiffany, who's running late as usual, and her friends are tracking her trip to make sure she's actually on her way.
Look, she's right there. She's 3 minutes away.
Or Sam, who never goes anywhere without her roommate knowing exactly where she is. Some journeys are meant to be shared. Share your ride in real time with Share My Trip on Uber. One more way Uber is putting safety at every turn. Learn more on the Uber app.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Whispering Woods Haunted episode. In tonight's episode, we are going to Massachusetts. I'm on my own for this episode because, unfortunately, on Saturday just gone, because we record a week in advance, Luna, my little baby dog, she had a grand mal seizure, and it was absolutely terrifying. And I'd been having nervous jitters for a while, so I'm just really hoping that nothing else is going to happen. So anyway, Toby had to stay at his dad's because he's got the puppy, Mickey. And otherwise Luna would just want to play. And we've got like 30-degree heat at the moment. She needs to rest. She'd hurt her paw as well. So it was all, doctors. It was all vets visits, all that kind of stuff. And I was here on my own. It was in the morning when she had the seizure. And it was terrifying. And because I wasn't quite with it, I thought, right, I need to ring Rog so he can come and pick me up and we can take her to the vet. And I rang 999 instead because I was in such a panic, and then realised what I'd done because I just did it automatically and had to apologise. And he said to me, can you put the phone down now? So I was like, yeah, sorry. But anyway, that's my little bit of a story. She's doing well. Seems to be, hopefully, fingers crossed and touch wood. But that's why this week I'm doing all of the episodes on my own. Right, so I've got a very interesting piece of folklore to share with you today, and I'll get straight into it. Are you ready for the story? Long before the story became a curse, before the red blossoms, the blood-marked apples, and the rumours of something moving through the fields, Micah Rood was a man trying to begin again. He lived in what is now Franklin, Connecticut, though in his time the area was known as Norwich West Farms, or 9 Mile Square. It was early New England, a world of small settlements, hard winters, religious discipline, scattered farms, and communities where reputation was not a private thing. The person's name travelled ahead of them. Their family history clung to them. Their neighbours knew what had happened, or thought they did. And in a place like that, the past did not simply fade because someone moved a few miles down the road. Micah Rood's past was already stained. He was the youngest of at least 9 children, and his family had been marked by one of the most disturbing cases in colonial American records. His father, Thomas Rood, had been charged and convicted after allegedly impregnating his own daughter, Sarah. According to the account, preserved in later retellings, Sarah herself told town officials what had happened after they became suspicious that she, unmarried, had given birth to a child. Thomas Rood was arrested, convicted, and hanged in 1672. According to Stephen Jencarroll's account, it was the only official execution for incest in what would become the United States. Sarah, however, was not treated as a victim. Although the account makes clear that she was abused, she was spared death but sentenced to be publicly whipped, once at Hartford and once at Norwich, in language that framed her punishment as a warning to others. This tells us something about the world Micah came from, a world where shame and punishment could be placed on the person who'd already suffered, and where family disgrace could become a kind of inheritance. So when Micah established his own farm in 1699, it's hard not to read that as an attempt at distance. Distance from his father's crime, distance from a household that must have carried unimaginable tension, distance from the kind of reputation that in a small colonial community could follow a person for life. For a while, he seemed to have managed it. The surviving legend gives us 2 versions of Micah Rood. In one, he was a decent man, respected enough, helpful to neighbours, and willing to share food from his farm. In the other, he was odd, unpleasant, and mean. That contradiction is worth noting because it does feel human. Almost nobody is remembered the same way by everyone, and old local stories have a way of sharpening people into symbols after the fact. If Micah was innocent, people may have darkened his character to make the accusation feel right. If he was guilty, others may have softened him because they could not quite believe a man they knew was capable of murder. What seems less disputed is that Micah was not an exceptional farmer in every respect. He was competent enough, perhaps, but not remarkable. Except when it came to apples. That was different. His orchard was said to be the finest thing on his land, planted in neat rows and known for its white blossoms in spring and its heavy fruit in autumn. The apples were described as large, beautiful, and desirable enough that people came to buy them and take them away by the load. Whether every part of that description is literal truth or the embroidery of later folklore, the meaning is clear. The orchard was Micah Rood's pride. It was his success. It was the part of the farm that made people come to him. And in December, one of those people was a travelling salesman. He was not necessarily a stranger in the way we might imagine. The story describes him as someone who knew the area and had passed through before. He sold goods from place to place, moving along the roads with whatever stock he carried and whatever money he had earned. And on this particular trip, he was believed to have sold a great deal, which meant he had cash on him. In that period, that was dangerous. A travelling merchant with money was vulnerable to robbery, and the roads between settlements were not places where help could be quickly summoned. A man could leave one place, fail to arrive at the next, and for a time there would be only guesses as to what happened to him. Somehow, on that winter night, the salesman ended up at or near Micah Rood's farm. Perhaps he came to buy apples. Perhaps he came to sell something. Perhaps he was invited inside. Perhaps he stopped because he knew the farm, knew the man who lived there, and saw no reason to think that anything was wrong. Whatever happened, he did not return home. At first, his absence may have been explainable. Bad weather could delay a man. Business could hold him up. He might have taken another road or stayed somewhere unexpectedly. But then concern turned to alarm. And when people began searching for him, a tip came in. Someone had reportedly seen him near the Rood farm. So they searched Micah's property. And beneath one of the apple trees, they found him. The salesman had been buried in the orchard. His skull had been shattered, and the money he had been carrying was gone. It was an ugly, practical sort of murder, the kind that suggested robbery, panic, or both. It also placed suspicion exactly where anyone would expect it to fall. The body was on Micah's land. The grave was beneath Micah's tree. The dead man had been seen near Micah's farm, and Micah was the person left standing beside all of it. But suspicion was not proof. Micah denied killing him, and although the discovery was horrifying, the evidence could not reach much further than the body itself. This was a colonial investigation, not a forensic one. They could not test blood traces, match fingerprints, examine fibres, or reconstruct the scene in any meaningful scientific way. They had a dead salesman, an apple tree, a missing sum of money, and a farmer who insisted he had not done it. That was not enough, so Micah Rood was not convicted. The case then seems to have entered that uneasy space, where everyone knows something terrible has happened, but no one can prove exactly how. The community must have talked, because of course they would have talked. Some would have believed Micah had killed the man himself, perhaps for the cash he carried. Others may have wondered whether a highwayman had robbed the salesman elsewhere, dragged or carried the body onto Micah's land, and buried him beneath the tree either in haste or with the intention of framing him. Another possibility is even simpler and more unsettling. Someone local, someone who knew the farm well enough to use it, chose Micah's orchard as a hiding place. Whatever the truth, the land had been marked. And then spring returned. Across the orchard, the apple trees bloomed as they always had, white blossoms opening in the cold light. But the tree beneath which the salesman had been buried came back changed. Its blossoms were no longer white, they were red. Then, when the fruit came later that year, the change became stranger still. The apples on that one tree grew large and yellow, but when they were cut open, they were marked by a red circle at the centre, a stain that looked like blood held inside the flesh of the fruit. According to the legend, no other tree in the orchard produced apples like that, just the one that had grown over the salesman's grave. From that point on, the story stops being only a murder story. It becomes folklore. Because if Micah was guilty, then the tree looked like an accusation. It was as though the earth had taken what he buried and returned it in blossom and fruit year after year, forcing him to look at what he had done. If Micah was innocent, the tree becomes something more tragic, not a witness against him, but a wound he could not escape. A living reminder of a dead man placed on his land by someone else. Either way, Micah changed. The accounts say his demeanour shifted. He became withdrawn and depressed. He stopped coming into town. He stopped eating properly. He stopped tending the farm that had once sustained him. People living near him reportedly heard him screaming late into the night and pacing alone over and over around the property. Then, according to a story included in Legends, Lore and Secrets from New England by Thomas D. Agostino and Arlene Nicholson, Micah told townspeople that he was being haunted by a ghost and that it attacked him whenever he tried to work the farm. So that changes the haunting from something passive into something active. This was not merely a figure glimpsed at the edge of a field, or a sound heard in the night. Micah was said to believe that something prevented him from working the land. Every attempt to return to ordinary life, every attempt to farm, every attempt to behave as though the murder had passed into memory, brought the haunting back. So the farm declined, the fields went untended, everything began to fail. Everything except the red apple tree. Season after season, that tree continued to thrive. Even though Micah no longer cared for the farm as he once had. It bloomed, it fruited, it stood there in the orchard, like a thing with its own purpose. In one version of the story, a young boy came onto the land and stole apples from it. When Micah caught him, the boy must have expected punishment, or at least anger. Instead, Micah told him to take them all. Not just the apple he had stolen, the entire crop from the tree. Micah wanted them gone. He was afraid of them. By the end of his life, the community's view of him seems to have been more complicated than simple hatred. The story says that when he became too frail to care for himself, townspeople paid volunteers 2 shillings to watch over him for 2 days at a time. If everyone had believed him to be nothing more than a cold-blooded murderer, would they have done that Perhaps out of Christian duty, yes. Perhaps because even a suspected killer could not simply be left to die alone. But perhaps it also suggests that some people were never fully convinced he'd killed the salesman. If Micah murdered the salesman, then the red tree was the shape of his guilt. It was the thing he could not silence, the grave that would not stay hidden, the blood that returned each autumn inside of the apples that had once made him proud. But if he did not murder him, then Micah Rood's life became something even more pitiful. A man born under one family disgrace, trying to build a new name for himself, only to have a murdered body found beneath his best tree. He died in December 1728, reportedly sitting in his chair and looking out towards the red apple tree. The tree outlived him. According to the legend, it stood for more than 200 years after the murder, surviving until the Great Hurricane of 1938. People were said to have taken pieces of it and tried to reproduce the apples elsewhere, but the blood-marked fruit could not be recreated. In some versions, later apple strains in the Franklin area still carried traces of red, and people called them Mike's apples or Micah's apples. As the story of Micah Rood travelled through Connecticut, it gathered other details around it, as old legends often do. The murdered man was sometimes called a salesman, sometimes a peddler, sometimes a stranger passing through, with a pack of goods and money from the road. In some tellings, his pack was found rifled after his body was discovered beneath the apple tree, as though someone had searched through his belongings before covering him over with earth. And then there were the apples. People came to know them by different names. Some called them Rood apples, some called them Mike apples. Others knew them by a darker name, Bloody Hearts. They were said to be sweet and pale within, except near the core, where a red mark appeared like a drop of blood caught inside the flesh. It was this mark that made the apples famous, and it was this mark that tied them forever to the dead man beneath the tree. The story spread through Norwich West Farms, now Franklin, and into the surrounding area. For a long time, people said no orchard in that part of eastern Connecticut was complete without the Mike apple. Shoots and grafts were taken from the original tree, carried to other farms, and planted in other soil. But the blood mark did not always follow. The flavour could be preserved. The fruit could grow, but the red stain itself was said to be uncertain, appearing most strongly when shoots were taken from the root. And that only made the legend stranger, because if the apples had taken their mark from the murdered man, then perhaps it was not the branches that remembered him. Perhaps it was the root. Perhaps it was the soil. Perhaps it was the place where his blood had gone into the ground. By the late 19th century, the Bloody Heart apples were still remembered. They were said to have been sold in markets in Windham, Connecticut, where people knew them not simply as fruit, but as something with a story inside. A cherry red apple, sweet to the taste, marked near the centre, as though the violence of that old winter night had never quite left it.
Bring on the off-road. Bring home a new Honda. With a great deal on your favorite Honda vehicles. Conquer trails and back roads in cars built for exploring. With the rugged Honda Pilot, Ridgeline, CR-V, and Passport, the road might stop, but you're not done. All from the 2025 Kelley Blue Book Best Value brand.
Based on 2025 Consumer Choice Awards from Kelley Blue Book, visit kbb.com for more information.
Don't you wish everything was more rewarding? With Rakuten, almost everything is. You can earn cash back on those shoes you've been wanting. You can save on the next trip you book. You can cash in on groceries. Just shop your favorite brands and save. It's that easy. And there are several ways to get paid, including PayPal, check, points, and gift cards. So go ahead, take a trip, fill that cart, join a world of rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app.
What a wonderful story. I thought this was fantastic. I love a bit of folklore. Now, for the main episode, we are in New England. And I'm a bit obsessed at the moment with this new TV show called Widow's Bay. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's great. Really is. And I highly recommend it. It's got just a little bit. So I don't normally like comedy horror. But this, I'm really, really enjoying it. And I never watch telly anymore. Just can't get into it. But this one is a definite thumbs up for me. So I'm just a little bit obsessed with New England at the moment, okay? So that's where we're going. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
We are live from Freddy's house.
Guests are gathering around the TV, even with a big storm outside.
Are we worried about the fee?
No, they have Xfinity Wi-Fi.
Get reliable fiber-powered gig Wi-Fi with Peacock included to stream the beautiful game this summer. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. New gig internet customers only. Actual speeds vary. Offer for Peacock Premium with ads currently at $10.99 a month value and limited to Xfinity internet members with newer upgraded gig speed or faster service. Activation required to access content. Peacock must be activated within first 90 days. Management of existing subscriptions may be required to avoid multiple subscriptions and duplicate charges. Third-party billed subscriptions continue until canceled.
Allergy season doesn't wait until you're home. It shows up in the car, at work, even at the gym. That's why Kleenex Ultra Soft Tissues have you covered. They're allergist approved and silky soft to help prevent skin irritation. And now, new Kleenex Snap and Go lets you take your favorite skin-loving tissues anywhere. A durable, compact case with a snap-shut lid, Kleenex Snap and Go keeps tissues clean and protected. So wherever allergies strike, comfort is within reach. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex Snap and Go.
Are you really buying a car online on AutoTrader right now?
Really?
At a playground?
Yeah, really. Look at these listings from dealers.
Wow, your search can really get that specific.
Really?
And you just put in your info and boom, car's in your budget.
Mom needs a second, honey.
You can really have it delivered?
Really. Or I can pick it up at the dealership. One sec, sweetie. Mommy's buying a car.
Mommy,
look! I think your kid is walking up the slide.
Kyle, again? Really?
AutoTrader. Buy your car online. Really?
The stories told on the Whispering Woods are inspired by historical records, witness reports, and local folklore. While every effort is made to research and represent events accurately, some details, names, and locations may differ from official accounts or have been changed out of respect for those involved. These episodes are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes and should not be considered definitive fact or investigative journalism.